Yeah, I did change, and I'm really glad I changed.
This one's wife. Nigeria proves they have failed. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. Let us for a moment consider the character arc, or story arc, of this one's wife and Prince Harry. Many years ago, Prince Harry was born. He was the son of Prince Charles and Diana, Princess of Wales. The world knew about him. The little ginger-haired fellow grew up in the glare of publicity that comes with the royal family. He was known as the Playboy Prince. He was known as the prince that had to walk behind his mother's coffin following her untimely death. There were reports of hot-headed behaviours, drug-taking, going large, bonkers night spot, a succession of girlfriends. But for the most part, people took Harry to their hearts. They had a degree of sympathy for the young man's circumstances with the loss of his mother. They liked his contrasting behaviours to that of the more serious king-in-waiting of William. He got stuck in. He became involved in the charitable works. He discharged his obligations as a member of the royal family. But he didn't appear to have found anybody. He got on very well with his brother and his sister-in-law. At times it seemed like he had a crush on her, wanting to find his own Catherine. This one's wife was unheard of until she married the Ginger Prince. Despite her claims that she was widely known as a consequence of Suits, she was not. This was a cable television drama where she was sixth on the call sheet. Some people knew about her as a consequence of her appearance on that show and her running the TIG, but most people had no idea who she was. She was a mediocre actress who had a father who had doted on her, a mother who had disappeared for a period of time, and was unremarkable, someone who was seeking to forge a career in acting, reliant upon the help of her father and her ex-husband, Trevor Engelson, for opportunities. Were it not for the fact that she met Prince Harry, she'd have probably continued in obscurity. But meet him she did, and thus she was catapulted onto the world stage, and the two came together. She was welcomed by many people in the United Kingdom and around the world as a breath of fresh air into the royal family. She was given every opportunity to thrive there, despite her suggestions to the contrary. As I've explained on many occasions, her narcissism failed to avail itself of this opportunity by bolting on the institution that was the royal family, and thereafter utilising that to control millions around the world through goodwill, to enjoy all of the fuel that was produced by people reacting to her by being a useful and likeable member of the royal family, to savour the privilege and prestige that came with such a position. After all, it was worlds apart from the life that she had had hitherto. As part of that, she embarked upon carrying out royal duties. She was given patronages. She received a title, Duchess of Sussex, on marrying Harry. And they undertook some of the royal engagements, sometimes together, sometimes separately. But it didn't work out. Despite undertaking those royal engagements, this one's wife fought against the institution. It was a threat to her control, and thus her narcissism created a number of supposed reasons as to why she was being persecuted and not helped, resulting in her bandying around false accusations and justifying a departure. She thought that she could take the title and monetize it. She thought that she wanted to be the celebrity, that she didn't want to engage in the service, but rather what she wanted to be able to do would be to ensure that she could monetize that and return to the United States, flaunting her title and enjoying a life of wealth and fame away from the controlling fustiness of the royal family. And thus she persuaded the Ginger Prince, by pouring poison in his ear, that it would be appropriate to leave the royal family, to suggest to him that he had never been supported, that he was trapped, and though he didn't realize it. And the dunderhead, as a combination of his high emotional thinking and lack of intelligence and existing begrudges, he was easy enough to manipulate, and he bought into their awful shared fantasy. And thus across the ocean they went, first to Canada and then to California. And at first matters looked entirely auspicious. Deals were done. The Americans were pleased to welcome them. A certain contingent said, "Good, leave behind that racist royal family and come here and thrive." But as is always the case with the narcissist, as time goes on, give them enough rope and they'll hang themselves. That you will see over time that the narcissist behavior creates problem after problem, so that the more astute start to realize, hang on a second, it isn't as she has suggested it is. Let us look at the evidence. And thus this one's wife attempted to make a fist of so many things. She wrote a book, but it was ridiculed. She read that book out, which resulted in more ridicule. She started the 40 by 40 idea, taking it, pinching it from Barack Obama. It went nowhere. She turned her hand to podcasting, and after 2 years created a series which was both boring, irrelevant, and self-indulgent. It wasn't renewed, and led to her being labelled a grifter. She found a home in Lemonada, only for them to then postpone the launch of a new series as a consequence of her focusing on her cooking program instead. She apparently was going to get political. She cold-called some senators. She sent a letter to Nancy Pelosi. She decided to get on the bandwagon of parental leave, but as soon as the idea formed, she forgot about it and moved on to something else, and thus the political career and marching on the White House marching on Washington with Gloria Steinem never came to pass. Interestingly, she doesn't seem to mention Gloria these days, another individual who has been left on the shelf, typical of so many that this one's wife deals with. She opted to try and carve out a career as a fashion icon, emulating Diana through the Diana duplication, but a series of fashion disasters: Kermit Goes to Church, Emoji Pooh Hat, Fridge by Valentino, Tent by Army Surplus, Zebra Crossing by Grift, Overripe Burst Tomato Lady, Chairman Mao Does New York, and many others, resulted in more ridicule in relation to that. Along came South Park, along came Family Guy, along came comedians, along came the near-disastrous, near-catastrophic car chase, nearly a year old. Now, where there wasn't really a car chase, and more people started to realise this woman makes things up. More and more people started to realise that the things that she turns to fail. That she sought to be an author, failed. Sought to be a podcaster, failed. The content creation for Netflix, the output was poor. Harry and this one's wife was a success, more out of grudge watching than anything else. And since then, they haven't produced anything that's anywhere near as watchable. They have fractured and strained relationships with friends and family, resulting in condemnation. Attempts to curry favour with the A-list have failed, as they have turned their back upon this one's wife, with certain individuals ridiculing her attempts to court them. She decided that she was going to launch a lifestyle brand, moving back to the issue of the TIG in effect. But even that she fucked up with a half-assed launch, which just resulted in a landing page wanting your email, the ridiculous name of American Riviera Orchard, which put one in mind of retirement homes, and then the jam scam, whereby jars of jam were sent out to influencers and friends, resulting in only about 12 of the 50 people it being sent to actually admitting they had received it, demonstrating another epic fail on the part of this one's wife. Thus, time and time again, she has demonstrated the Sadim touch, whereby everything she has engaged in has turned to shit. And I have just highlighted some of the major incidences of this occurring. I'm sure you can think of other times where she has sought to do something and failed. Thus, all of the things that she has attempted to do to become this popular celebrity have failed. So what does she then do? She embarks on a tour of Nigeria. She was once a member of the royal family, and she went on a tour of South Africa. Now, no longer a working member of the royal family, she returns to Africa, albeit going to a different country this time. As we have seen, it was a tour that was royal in all but name. I'm not the only one that has picked up on this. Daniela Elsa, writing for news.com.au, pointed out, Prince Harry and this one's wife have just wrapped their first overseas tour in the 4+ years since the symbol clash of Megxit, and the déjà vu is pretty much blinding. The last time the Duke and Duchess jetted off to glad hand a foreign nation, it was September 2019, when they travelled to South Africa. It was a make or break, oh geez, so much is on the line moment. We saw the couple surrounded by adoring school children. The Duchess flew the flag for women's empowerment. There was dancing. There was a nod to Diana, Princess of Wales, through this one's wife's jewellery. And Harry spent time supporting people scared by conflict. And this time, the Duke and Duchess flew to Nigeria. It was a make or break, oh geez, so much is on the line moment. We saw the couple surrounded by adoring school children. The Duchess flew the flag for women's empowerment. There was dancing. There was a nod to Diana, Princess of Wales, through this one's wife's jewellery. And Harry spent time supporting people scared by conflict. If you look at the images of the Sussexes' 3-day tour of the West African nation from last week, it looks eerily similar to that of their 29 South African one. There were photos of Harry and this one's wife on the floor while visiting a mosque in Cape Town in 2019, and then there were photos of them sitting on the floor in a school in Abuja. There was a picture of them amidst children in 2019 in Cape Town. There were pictures of them amid children in Lagos. There were the 2 programs. Back then, this one's wife met with women entrepreneurs and technology investors and attended a Women in Public Service breakfast. Last week, this one's wife spoke at a Women in Leadership event co-hosted with Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, the Director General of the World Trade Organization. In South Africa, this one's wife claimed kinship in a speech saying, "I'm here with you as a mother, as a wife, as a woman of colour, and as your sister." In Nigeria, this one's wife referenced this country, my country. In 2019, Harry travelled to Huambo in Angola and spent time with those wounded by landmines and amputees. In 2024, Harry visited a military amputee hospital. In 2019, the Duke and Duchess of Sussex met with the British High Commissioner, and then in 2024, they met with the Governor of Lagos State. So what does this show us? It demonstrates that back in 2019, they did all of those things as working members of the royal family. Now in 2024, they are doing similar things as non-working members of the royal family, but ostensibly similar in terms of going to Africa, the people that they're meeting, the manner of the meeting, the things that they do, the speeches that are given. It's almost a carbon copy of what they did in 2019. And what this tells us is that they have failed. They attempted to carve out a new role for themselves as these liberated celebrity royals, whereby this one's wife would write a book, Harry would wank around at Better Up. that this one's wife would be involved in fashion, politics, philanthropy. Archwell's donations have plummeted. It received a notice of delinquency. All of the things that they have sought to do outside of the royal family have failed. And so what have they been left doing? Going back to exactly the same things that they did when they were working members of the royal family, albeit on this occasion they can't claim for it to be royalty. But that's what they're doing. A pseudo-royal tour, meets and greets, speeches, almost identikit to what went on in South Africa. And the fact that they have had to resort back to this, cosplaying at royals, even though they're not actually working royals, just demonstrates that they have failed. It shows that everything else they sought to do didn't work. It demonstrates that all of the opportunities that they were given, they failed at. They failed at them because Harry doesn't understand anything outside of being in the royal family. To an extent, that is understandable. Furthermore, he's not particularly talented and he's not very bright. They failed also because this one's wife has no charisma, no talent, no ability. She also is lazy. She expects everything to be given on her plate to her, and because she's unlikable, and with the aforementioned lack of talent, this means that everything else she's attempted to do has failed. So she has to fall back on the one thing that they managed with a degree of success, which was going around meeting people, playing at being royals. Take away their titles, remove them from royalty, and they've got nothing. It was quite apparent that many of those that they met in Nigeria wouldn't be able to distinguish from the fact that it wasn't a royal tour, that they were not representing anybody other than themselves. They clearly thought, I'm meeting a prince and a princess. That was evident in the introductions that were given, the way that they were treated, that those that met them thought this is a royal tour. They didn't care that it wasn't. But it demonstrates that's all that they can do. That's all that they've got. They're not actually royals anymore. Yes, they're a Duke and Duchess. Harry remains a prince by birth. But they're not working members of the royal family. They're not representing the royal family. And the fact that they've had to go back to the very thing that they despised, or apparently despised, that they've had to go back to doing something that they were doing 5 years ago, demonstrates just how they have failed. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.